Kia ora, good evening. Fonterra confirmed today it will cut 300 jobs as part of its support services review. Fonterra Cooperative Group says it's completed consultation with staff as part of its support services review and will cut approximately 300 roles first identified when the review began in May. The positions affected are predominantly at Fonterra's corporate offices in Auckland and Hamilton, with roles including positions such as human resources and finance. The review is expected to be completed by October. CEO Theo Spearings says the review identified ways to reduce duplication and layers of management within the corporate office. Discussion got heated as people raised concerns about K2 and synthetic cannabis product and what could happen when it's taken off the shelves at a public meeting in Invercargill last night. Around 100 people attended the meeting held to look at the issue of legal highs. Speakers included Police Sergeant Brock Davis, Associate Health Minister Todd McClay, Invercargill MP Eric Roy and City Councillor Lindsay Thomas. One former user shared his experiences and said he wants it banned. The Psychoactive Substances Bill is expected to pass its third and final reading on Thursday, which upon enactment will see legal highs removed from dairies and non-specialist shops and will restrict under 18-year-olds from using it. And Sarah Bedford spoke to Southland Police Area Commander Inspector Lane Todd about legal highs.
Predominantly for us, we're quite concerned around the youth, and we've seen burglaries and thefts and also violence. And anecdotally, what we're also hearing from our health partners is that there's a lot more ongoing effects, and that's having mental health issues as well.
So is this a growing issue?
It's not really growing because it has been an issue since K2 and other substances like that have been in place in the community. But certainly what we are noticing is more youth, and that's a major concern for us.
Now there's a bill around this before Parliament. If that passes, what concerns do you have as to what might happen then?
Well, I guess one of the main concerns is that it goes underground. And we're also hearing already that some retailers are actually stockpiling at the moment, and we're concerned about that. But of course, moving forward, once the new legislation, if it comes in as we suspect it will, then we'll be able to take more action in relation to that.
In terms of this bill, once it actually, if it passes and becomes legislation, what action will police then be taking?
Well, we'll be working with health, and we'll be looking at what enforcement processes that we will be following. But you can be rest assured, in the community, rest assured that we will be taking a hard line, and I'm aware health will be also. So that's the stance we've been taking. We have communicated that very strongly to the retailers still in Invercargill. Invercargill is the only city in the southern area that actually still has retailers. The other, like Gore and Winton, don't. So we've already been giving them those messages quite strongly.
Now, in terms of Southland, do you think we're in a different position or similar to other parts of the country in terms of people using this product and the consequences or actions that we're seeing from that?
We're probably on a par. Obviously, different scales to depending on what cities, size of the cities or the population. But certainly our counterparts in Dunedin are having similar issues, and again with youth and the mental health follow-up from that. So that is a concern that we do have, and I know that it was expressed at the meeting last night, was that the follow-on effect in terms of mental health is going to be a major one for us. Clearly when the legislation comes in, these people that have been using it are now no longer legally going to be able to purchase it. So, we're going to have to manage that moving forward.
Invercargill residents seeking a bylaw change to reduce or stop heavy traffic travelling on Fox Street were heard at Invercargill City Council yesterday, but no decision has yet been made. Council deferred making a decision until a report looking at the issues is provided by councillors and staff. Fox Street residents and business operators located at the former showground site were among 14 submitters heard. Recently, Fox Street was made a heavy traffic bypass due to repairs on Victoria Avenue, amplifying heavy traffic use for a time. Businesses are looking for continuity of access, while residents want heavy traffic moved back to Victoria Avenue. Residents have been raising the issue with council since last year.
Residents last year had been discussing with us that they had concerns, but certainly the work after Christmas this year, I think, was the straw that really sort of brought it to head, and I guess that's really why this now sits with the councillors to hear the submissions and consider a bylaw, whether that's a way that they can actually find some compromise or find a solution for the residents and the business owners.
So what's involved in that process?
As we stand, the submissions have been heard on the draft proposal. The councillors have resolved last evening to defer any decision until they have a council workshop so they can explore a number of the opportunities to consider how appropriate those are, and then they will bring that resolution back to the next infrastructural services meeting in August.
The actual street itself is wide. It's obviously been built like that for a purpose, and that was to service the wool store and perhaps the army and other areas, parts that were in that showground area. So there's always been an element of use by heavy traffic down that street.
I guess the history has been that it was the original access to the A&P showgrounds and the wool stores. I'm not sure why it was built that wide. The underlying land that has been in the district plan has been, as I understand it, an enterprise use, which really allows for the current use, and that's, I guess, part of the original consenting process.
From the business people's perspective that are in that business park, how do you mitigate effects on them as well as trying to keep residents happy?
I guess that's the challenge the workshop and we face.
Stay with us after the break. How a new freedom camping bylaw is hitting tourists in the pocket in Queenstown. Welcome back. Businesses are optimistic and there are signs of continued momentum in economic recovery, according to the NZIER quarterly survey of business opinion released today. NZIER Chief Executive Jean-Pierre Derard says businesses are hiring and investing more, a sign of continued momentum in the economic recovery. He says recovery is still at an early stage and price pressures remain low. The survey for the June quarter shows 31% of businesses are optimistic. The recovery is uneven across regions and sectors. Building and manufacturing are strong, but retail lags. Activity and optimism are flowing through to hiring and investment. Hiring is rising modestly and still surging in Canterbury. The installation of new open fires that burn solid fuel such as coal or wood has been banned in Invercargill and Gore. The new open fire ban came into effect last month and applies to the installation of new solid fuel open fires, but does not apply to existing open fires or other solid fuel burners at this stage. Open gas fires are also not affected. The restrictions come following the Regional Air Plan review to help Southland meet Ministry for the Environment standards for air quality. The Regional Air Plan, still under review, is likely to recommend that domestic solid fuel burners become regulated in the future. Freedom camping in the Queenstown Lakes District has cost campers more than $170,000 in fines in the 7 months since legislation was introduced. A bylaw to address the issue came into effect on December 22nd and has seen over 1,800 infringements issued by the Queenstown Lakes District Council in a bid to curb freedom camping in the area. Around 500 fines were cancelled after it was proved people weren't freedom camping. More than 880 have been paid and over 500 fines are still outstanding, valued at around $100,000. Council Regulatory Services Manager Lee Webster says collecting fines from visitors to the community in hired vehicles is proving a challenge. Around 180 households in the southern area of Waimahaka now have mobile coverage and additional broadband services available. Vodafone recently erected a 25-metre cell tower through government's Rural Broadband Initiative, delivering mobile phone coverage and wireless broadband. An additional 7 towers are planned to be built in Southland over the next 3 years at locations including Tokanui, Nightcaps, Lumsden and Waikaia. Under the 5-year Regional Broadband Initiative, rural communities will see mobile coverage delivered to 4,500 kilometres of rural New Zealand roads, which have previously been without mobile service. The Labour Party's proposal to allow for female-only electorates in some areas has been squashed today by Labour leader David Shearer. Labour had touted the idea in a bid to increase the number of female MPs. We hit the streets in Invercargill today to ask people for their thoughts on the proposal.
I think it just should be fair across the board for both men and women. So I don't think that you should be forced to have, females are forced to have men in certain electorates.
Oh, it's just stupid. It's just feminism, craziness gone wrong. Politically correctness, I guess. It's the hangover from Helen Clark days.
It's hard because, of course, being a girl, of course I want to say that's awesome. But having said that, I think it should be more on the merits of the person whether they're a male or female should be regardless. If they can do the job well and the people like them, then that should be who you vote for.
I'm a bit baffled by it, really. Anybody can stand anywhere they like, male or female, to be quite honest. And if a female was wanting to stand, and electric shouldn't be dictated to by numbers of male or female. It's whoever wants to stand at the time.
Bloody ridiculous. Absolutely pathetic. It's one of the most stupid things I've ever done. Next thing it'll be seats for gays, for lesbians, for everybody else. It should be on merit, not on sex.
Well, whoever, as far as I'm concerned, the person that should be, the best person should be in there, whether it's a man or female, for the New Zealand, for our benefit.
I think it's fair to have people, the female and male should have an even ratio between the two, and I don't see anything wrong with it as long as it's a concept with. But I've always been of a belief that on ability to handle the jobs and carry out the work that's needed.
Do you think we need more female MPs in New Zealand?
Well, if they're going to be, yes, if they're going to be better than the men, which I think some of them could be.
We need a good quality of MP. The sex is irrelevant.
Yes and no. It's just getting the women out there to stand who thinks they can do the job at the time. So the best person at the time, really, male or female.
I think so, yeah. I think it'll help keep the balance.
It doesn't concern me too much as long as I've got the brains.
It depends on the quality. So whether it's male or female, like, it doesn't worry me as long as there's a quality, which some of them are lacking, both male and female at the moment. So.
Well, I think it's just like the Maori seats. I mean, do we really need them? It's just if you're only good, you get in there. And I mean, look, we're well represented with Maori now in Parliament as well as women. So the days of this crazy, what is it, sexism or what do you want to call it? I think it's long got to go.
Well, I don't see why we shouldn't have, because it's good to see a bigger ratio, because they can still do the work. And with Helen Clark doing her part, a follow-on wouldn't be too bad from there, I don't think.
Coming up in sport, Southern Steel Vice-Captain Wendy Frew with her pick for this week's ANZ Netball Final. That's after the weather next. From the news team, good night.